Hey, third grade, if you guys do not have your fraction strips, I need you to please go get them. All right, we are going to be working on finding equivalent fractions on a number line. And then I'm going to show you what some questions would look like when you are working on answering star-based questions for your test, okay? So 1/2, so I'm going to get out 1/2. This is how this is going to work. And then you guys, I'm going to model some, and then you guys are going to do some by yourself, okay? So I want 1/2 to represent an equivalent fraction. So I'm going to get out 1/2, and then I'm going to get out thirds, and then fourths, sixths, and eighths. There are going to be multiple fractions that 1/2 is equivalent to, and you just need to pick, we're just going to pick one, okay? So I'm also going to get a piece of paper, or I'm going to use my whole, and I'm going to mark off one. I'm going to put the paper down on the line where I have my halves, all right? Now, there are several fractions that 1/2 represents. 1/2, does 1/2 represent 1/3? Or is it, is it equivalent to 1/3? No, 1/2 is not equivalent to 1/3, and it's not equivalent to 2/3 either, because 2/3 would be over here, all right? But 1/2, let me move this over just a little bit. I'm trying not to mess them up. Okay, but 1/2, 2/4. 1/2 is the same as 2/4. All right. 1, 2. Is 1/2 the same as 3/6? Are those equivalent? Yes, 1/2 is the same as 3/6. And what about 1, 2, 3, 4? 4/8. Is 1/2 the same as 4/8? Good. 1/2 is the same as 4/8. So 1/2 is the same as 2/4, as 3/6, as 4/8, which means that 4/8 is equivalent to 3/6, which is equivalent to 2/4, which is equivalent to 1/2. So all of those are equivalent, even though the pieces are smaller and my denominators are not the same. All of those fractions are going to be equivalent. So because it's easy to divide this into fourths, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to cut that in half, and I'm going to cut that in half. All right? So now that I cut that in half, yes, this is 1/2, but it is also 2/4. Okay? So now I'm going to do 4/6. I'm going to put my fraction pieces in order. Oops, I made a mistake there. Okay, I'm going to put my fraction pieces in order. And I'm going to use this to mark off, I'm going to use my whole piece to mark off 4/6, where my 4/6 goes. That's 3/6. That is 4/6. Okay? Now, 4/6 and 1/2, those don't line up. Okay? 2/3 lines up. 3/4 does not quite line up. Here is 4/6 and here is 3/4. So I'm going to remove that. Okay? There is 4/6. 2/3, that works pretty well right there. If I'm looking at these two, that works pretty well. And then it does not line up with, there's 4/6 right there. That is not an even equivalency. That's not an equivalency with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eighths. All right. It's a little bit more than 6/8. 6/8 is not, or 6/8 is going to be a little bit more than 4/6. All right. So I can take that one out. So 1/3 is equivalent, or sorry, 4/6 is equivalent to, good, 2/3. 4/6 is equivalent to 2/3. Now, on my number line, I already have thirds, and you may be able to see them, but you may not. 1, 2. So these would be my thirds. 1, 2, 3. But it's right here, so it's equivalent to 2/3. Okay? So we're just finding equivalent fractions on our number lines. All right, the next fraction is 1/4. Okay? So again, I'm going to get out my fraction strips, and you guys may not have to move your fraction strips as much. I'm just working with limited space. All right? And if you wanted to, you could even pick up your fraction pieces. You could be folding them in half or folding them into how you folded them when we made our fraction pieces. And that would also help you find equivalent fractions, okay? So here is, I'm looking for 1/4. There is 1/4, all right? Does anybody see the fraction that it lines or that it is equivalent to? This is 1/4 right here. Does anybody see the fraction that 1/4 is equivalent to? Good. 1/4 is going to be equivalent to 2/8. It's not equivalent to 2/6 because that would be 2/6, and this is 1/4. It's not equivalent to 1/3. 1/3 is going to be a little bit bigger than 1/4. It's not equivalent to 1/2, but it is equivalent to 2/8. 1/8 and 2/8. Okay? Sometimes on your pictures, you're going to be given fraction models already, and then you'll just use your picture to help you. Sometimes you might have to draw a picture. All right. So I'm going to be dividing my pieces or my sections into eighths. All right. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But my point is at 1/4, and it's also at 2/8. 1, 2. And I created 8 total spaces. Okay, so I'm going to show you what some of your questions are going to be looking like. Now that you've seen your fraction pieces done with pictures, you're going to be, and you've seen it done with number lines, I'm going to show you what some of your questions would look like when you are when you're taking your assessment, okay? Lainey used fraction strips like those, like the ones shown in the diagram, in order to find equivalent fractions. And this is basically what we created earlier this week. We have just we have just cut them up so we can manipulate them and fold them and things like that. Which list shows only fractions that are equivalent to 1/2? Well, here is 1/2. All right, that is 1/2. If you want to find fractions that are equivalent to 1/2, you could just go straight down. Okay? This is not going to be equivalent to 1/2. But this is 1/4. This is 1/4. 1/6, 1/6, 1/6. 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8. All right? So, the equivalent fractions for 1/2, 1/2 equals 2/4. 1, 2, 3, 3/6. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4/8. So then you would find 2/4, 3/6, 4/8. 2/4, 4/6. 4/6 is not equivalent to 4/6. 4/6 is out here on your fraction strips. So that one makes it wrong. 1/4, 1/2 is not equivalent to 1/4. And even if you wanted to get out your fraction pieces, you get out your fraction pieces and you fold your paper into how we did originally. So if I want to fold 1/2 and I want to see, is 1/4 equivalent to 1/2? I just folded it up to where they're all together, all of my fraction pieces, and those are not equivalent. You can see that those are not going to be equivalent pieces, okay? All I did was I took my fraction strip and I just folded it up back into fourths like we did when we originally created our fraction strips, okay? 2/3, it is not equivalent to 2/3 because 2/3 would be right here. All right, and we're looking for straight down that line. Okay, so this is a similar way of how, or this is an example of how you're going to see your questions asked. Something like this. Now, I am going to be showing you more examples of questions being asked later on, so you can just get a better idea of them. But that is a quick example of how questions are going to be asked to you. We've practiced, we've reviewed going over fractions. Your numerator shows how many parts are being shaded or counted. Your denominator is the total parts in your whole. We've talked about representing fractions, so just identifying 1/4, 1/2, 2/3, 3/4, 6/8 being shaded or counted or being represented. We have talked about finding equivalent fractions with pieces or pictorial models. And then today we talked about finding equivalent fractions on number lines, okay? Later on, we're going to be moving into comparing fractions and determining which fraction is bigger or smaller. But we have one more day of just reviewing equivalent fractions and finding equivalent fractions on number lines and pictorial models. All right, if you guys need any help, please remember that you need to be hopping onto office hours or asking your teacher for help.